back into the world of Mind Your Language, the beloved sitcom that made audiences laugh across generations, yet carried heartbreaking stories behind the curtain. While the show's humor was timeless, the fate of its cast was far from lighthearted. 14 stars have tragically passed away, including the recent loss of Pick Sen Lim, remembered for her iconic role as Su Li. Off-camera struggles, untold battles, and quiet departures shaped a legacy that fans rarely saw. In this video, we uncover what really happened, honoring the laughter they gave us and the lives that ended too soon. Behind the laughter, the hidden sorrows of the Mind Your Language cast. Sitcoms built around social class, workplace chaos, and culture clash humor dominated British TV comedy during the period when Mind Your Language began. The sitcom centers on Mr. Jeremy Brown, a young, idealistic English teacher who takes on a classroom full of adult learners from all around the world. Some of the common comedic ingredients include mispronunciations, literal translations, and culture shocks. Although modern audiences view the show differently, in the 1970s it became a massive hit. The show was popular due to its multicultural cast, which was unusual for the time, and British shows rarely featured international characters alongside one another. Most comedy came from simple misunderstandings, "I am going to kill you" or "I mean to call you," which is translated into other cultures. The show became extremely popular in Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Eastern Europe. It offered silly, light-hearted humor during a period in the UK marked by inflation, strikes, and a 3-day workweek. Many viewers at the time saw the stereotypes not as offensive but as harmless exaggerations. Everyone is being made fun of equally was the common defense during the era. As social attitudes changed, the show drew criticism for racial stereotypes and exaggerated accents. The show was rerun on television in India, Pakistan, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Kenya, and the Middle East. Many countries credited it with helping them understand British accents and learn English idioms. They also laughed at cross-cultural misunderstandings. Cheap distribution in Asia brought new generations to the show. The show's modern re-evaluation. Over time, perspectives shifted considerably, and the program Mind Your Language is now viewed more through a critical lens than in the past. Recent criticisms of the program include promoting racial stereotypes, reducing cultures to caricatures, and being written without the participation of members of ethnic minority groups. The majority of race actors were limited to stereotypical parts or accents. In addition, it was praised for the way it portrayed immigrants in a sympathetic light, for the way it made English language instruction available to several non-native speakers, and for presenting ethnic faces on television during a time when diversity was not the norm. It's both praised for its warmth and mocked for its stereotypes, and it's remembered with both love and anxiety. Mind Your Language remains a beloved classic despite the controversy it's generated. It gave millions of people in Asia and Africa their first exposure to British comedy. It's frequently employed by scholars in the field of film as an example of hilarious cliches no longer in use, as well as early efforts to produce multicultural television and to examine how comedy evolves in society. The program demonstrates how Britain perceived itself, how it perceived immigrants, and how broad humor was practiced in the 1970s. Those who were laughing were actually hiding the fact that people from various backgrounds were struggling to find their way in an industry that would occasionally trap them in restrictive roles. The dark side of a beloved sitcom, Untold Stories of Loss. The cast came from a mix of countries, each bringing a cultural diversity rarely seen on British TV at the time. The chemistry on set was warm, the environment was playful, and the comedic energy was infectious. But behind the lively classroom scenes, the actors' lives were far more fragile than audiences ever realized. The show was a hit, but unlike the stars of major Hollywood sitcoms, many cast members were paid modestly, had limited protection in their contracts, and received little residual income from the show's global success. The worst of all was that they became permanently typecast. Actors of color especially found themselves boxed into stereotypical roles, like the funny foreigner, the broken English student, and the cultural caricature. This artistic confinement silently eroded careers and opportunities. Some cast members loved the exposure, but privately lamented that British television had no room for them beyond the very stereotypes the show relied on. When the series abruptly ended in 1979 due to controversy over racial stereotyping, many of the actors expected new opportunities, but the industry did not reward them. A pattern emerged like promising careers stagnated, auditions dried up, some actors slipped into obscurity, and a few faced profound personal hardship. Stars gone too soon. Tragedies that shocked fans worldwide. Mind Your Language made millions laugh, but behind the cheerful mayhem of the language classroom, several cast members lived lives that were far from the joy they created on screen. Some met untimely deaths, some faded away in loneliness, and some struggled silently under careers cut short by typecasting. Their stories, now known, break the hearts of fans around the world. Dino Shafiq, Ali Nadim, was a lovable, energetic student and the soul of the show's early humor. But his real life was far quieter and ended far too soon. In 1984, Dino was found dead in a London home at the age of 53. His passing marked the first major tragedy linked to the show. Tommy Godfrey, Sid, the gruff but lovable school caretaker, had a long history in British comedy. But shortly after Dino's death, tragedy struck again. Age and heart issues had already taken a toll. Tommy Godfrey died in June 1984, same year as Dino, a second loss that deeply saddened fans who grew up watching classic British humor. Another one is Barry Evans, Mr. Jeremy Brown, who was a gentle, patient teacher who kept the chaotic class together. His life was a tragic contrast. His decline was painful for those who knew how talented he truly was. In February 1997, Barry Evans was found dead in his home. Another is Ricardo Montes, Juan Cervantes, who, with his warm smile and comic charm, became a favorite in households across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Ricardo Montes passed away in October 2010. Life after the classroom. The cast's real-world struggles. When Mind Your Language was canceled, many cast members expected the same boost that actors from other hit sitcoms received. But instead, they faced a harsh, uncomfortable truth. They were not seen as actors, but as caricatures. Casting directors assumed they could only play exaggerated foreigners. Most found that after the show, doors did not open. They quietly shut. Barry Evans was reportedly passed over for roles because he was too associated with sitcoms. His finances dwindled. Eventually, unable to rely solely on acting income, he allegedly took a job as a taxi driver in Leicestershire. Fans recognized him, but only as Mr. Brown, not as the actor he dreamed of being. His career never recovered, and he passed away. Dino Shafiq repeatedly played the foreigner, never the lead. British TV gave him a few serious opportunities for South Asian actors, which he denied them. Though he remained active, his career plateaued. He died while working steadily. Albert Moses remained active in Sri Lankan and British arts communities, but even he faced limitations, like the roles for South Asians being narrow and underdeveloped. Ricardo Montes was frequently typecast as a Spanish waiter and rarely offered major roles. He lived a quiet life in later years. Zara appeared in Never the Twain, played minor TV roles, and retreated from the public eye. Pixem Lim found some of the most brutal battles of any cast member. Leading roles for Asian actresses were virtually non-existent, and she was often limited to authoritarian, comedic, and villainous roles. Tommy had a traditional Cockney persona that fell out of fashion, but roles dried up. His health declined, and eventually he passed away. Fame, pressure, and pain. What the cameras never showed. Behind the scenes, the cast shared affection and cultural connection, but once the cameras stopped rolling, many of them faced a far harsher truth. The show was beloved worldwide, but the actors themselves experienced something entirely different. They became famous without becoming influential. Despite global visibility, the industry didn't treat them like major stars. They couldn't control their careers. Casting directors saw them as only the characters they played. Their fame was regional, not industry-breaking. Worldwide fans knew them, but the industry didn't reward them. The roles that made them beloved also became the roles that imprisoned them. Actors who played foreigners were often offered comedy immigrant roles, heavy accent caricatures, one-dimensional stereotypes, service workers, waiters, and funny foreign friends. Even when their acting range was broader, producers rarely allowed them to prove it. This phenomenon wasn't a personal failure, it was a systemic limitation of British television in the 1970s and 80s. The industry didn't know what to do with ethnic minority actors beyond the narrow roles it had created for them. Although Mind Your Language was loved internationally, in the UK it became controversial. Executives later viewed it as racially insensitive, outdated, and reliant on stereotypes. When the show was canceled partly for these reasons, the cast experienced a unique kind of pressure, as if their most significant work had become something the industry wanted to distance itself from. They became tied to a show the UK grew to embrace, and while fans abroad adored it, British television moved away from that style of comedy. The Unspoken Truth – Cast members who battled in silence. Barry Evans was the cheerful center of the show. Yet behind the scenes, he faced a slow, painful decline in his career. After early successes in Please Sir and Mind Your Language, roles became increasingly scarce. By the 1990s, he was reportedly working to support himself financially. He lived in isolation, away from the industry that once celebrated him. On the 9th of February 1997, he was found dead at age 53 under circumstances that were never fully explained. A coroner returned an open verdict, leaving his passing surrounded by uncertainty, which is a reflection of the silent battles he endured in his final years. Dino Shafiq was known for his energy and comedic delivery, becoming one of the most loved characters in the series. Despite his on-screen brightness, he reportedly faced intense pressures as a working immigrant actor in the British entertainment system of the 1970s. Representation for South Asian performers was minimal, and he often received stereotyped roles. He died suddenly of a heart attack on the 10th of March 1984 at only 53, a shocking loss that ended a promising career that never reached its deserved peak. Although their struggles were different, both men shared the burden of working in an industry that often typecast or sidelined minority or comedic actors. Ricardo Montes was known on-screen for his gentle humor and warmth. Yet in later life, he battled cancer, which ultimately led to his death on the 26th of October 2010. He kept much of his illness private, continuing to make public appearances and act when possible. His professionalism masked a long and quiet struggle behind the scenes. At a time when roles for non-white actors were minimal, Albert Moses broke barriers as a Sri Lankan actor in British television. The applause of the audience. When Mind Your Language premiered in December 1977, it quickly gained a strong audience following. Viewers were drawn to its multicultural classroom, fast-paced humor, and the warmth of the characters. Despite mixed critical reviews, the public response was overwhelmingly positive, resulting in high ratings during its early run. One of the reasons for its popularity was its international relatability. The comedic misunderstandings resonated with immigrants, students, and multilingual families, reflecting parts of themselves. Even though the humor was based on stereotypes, many viewers, especially those represented, responded with affection rather than offense at the time. Although the show ended its original run in the early 1980s, audience interest did not fade. Repeats on British television continued to draw solid viewership. The show gained a cult following, proving its longevity beyond its initial broadcast period. In many of the regions, the show received a warm and enthusiastic response, often airing repeatedly for years. For audiences, the humor felt universal and approachable. The show returned briefly in 1986 for another season. This revival occurred due to strong viewer nostalgia and continued popularity abroad. Although the revival was shorter-lived, it showed the enduring affection fans had for the original cast and format. Today, the series attracts two main groups: original fans who watch it with affection and nostalgia. While modern audiences may criticize some outdated humor, many still appreciate the show's charm, simplicity, and memorable characters. The shocking moment of the show. The most widely recognized moment associated with the show is the death of Barry Evans, who played the central teacher, Mr. Jeremy Brown. On the 9th of February 1997, Evans was found dead inside his home. Circumstances were mysterious, like empty whiskey bottles and aspirin tablets nearby. But the coroner returned an open verdict. The unexpected departure of the actor, who had brought so much joy to the screen, stunned fans and colleagues alike. Dino, beloved for his role as Ali Nadim, died suddenly of a heart attack on the 10th of March 1984. His death shocked audiences who associated him with the classroom's vibrant, comedic energy. The sudden nature of his passing made it a pivotal moment of tragedy for the show's legacy. Within a few decades, several other cast members passed away. Each death brought renewed reflection on the bittersweet legacy of the show. The laughter on screen contrasted with real-life tragedy. Beyond sudden deaths, some actors endured shocking personal hardships in private, like Albert Moses, who navigated systemic racial barriers in British television. These struggles, largely unknown to audiences at the time, reveal a more profound, quieter shock behind the scenes. Viewers were often unaware of the hardships and losses while watching the show's original run. The unexpected passing of the actors later reframed how audiences saw the series. What was once a light-hearted comedy took on a poignant, nostalgic resonance. Every rerun or clip now carries not only laughter, but also remembrance of the individuals who brought the characters to life. A decision that defied the producer's expectation. When Mind Your Language was in pre-production in 1977, producers had a precise vision for the multicultural classroom. Many of the actors cast were relatively unknown or came from backgrounds not typically represented on British television. Dino Shafiq and Albert Moses were cast despite being unconventional choices, defying expectations about what would be marketable on mainstream TV. This risk paid off while their characters became audience favorites and iconic figures in the series. The show's script intentionally played with cultural and linguistic misunderstandings, which some producers initially feared might be too controversial or offensive. Early pilot screenings revealed that some scenes might be perceived as stereotype-heavy. Producers considered toning down jokes about accents, cultural habits, or gender interactions. The creative team decided to keep the humor intact, believing audiences would respond to its heart and character-driven comedy rather than simply the stereotypes. The decision was risky, but ultimately contributed to the show's enduring popularity. After the original run ended, the series saw unexpected demand from international audiences in India, Malaysia, and the Middle East. Producers had not anticipated this global appeal and initially resisted syndication abroad. The decision to sell the show internationally defied expectations and turned it into a worldwide success, with reruns continuing for decades. During the 1986 revival, some original cast members were unavailable. Instead of recasting all roles or canceling the revival, producers allowed some characters to be absent or replaced selectively, which was initially considered a risky decision. This choice preserved continuity while acknowledging actor availability, proving that audience loyalty relied more on character essence than exact casting. On-set memories and off-set heartbreaks, a retrospective. Mind Your Language was celebrated for its ensemble cast chemistry. Actors like Barry Evans, Dino Shafiq, Albert Moses, and Pick Sen Lim developed close bonds, often sharing laughs and improvising classroom antics. Behind the scenes, the cast members recalled moments of genuine friendship, practical jokes, and mutual support during long shooting days. These joyful moments contributed to the natural on-screen humor that audiences loved. Despite the humor, the production was demanding, with tight schedules and multiple scripts per week. Actors delivering heavily accented dialogue sometimes struggled with timing, causing repeated takes. Cast members later described both frustration and camaraderie, emphasizing that the challenges often brought them closer. While on-screen life was humorous, several cast members faced real-life hardships like Barry Evans, Dino Shafik, Albert Moses, and Ricardo Montez. These hardships contrast sharply with the humor they brought to the screen, highlighting the duality of life and entertainment. The public remembered the laughs, catchphrases, and classroom chaos, often unaware of the private struggles behind them. The gap between on-screen joy and off-screen pain is particularly striking given the show's international popularity and seemingly carefree tone. Fans now, in retrospectives, often experience a mix of nostalgia and poignancy, knowing the real lives of the actors were sometimes fragile. Some episodes featured location shoots or extended promotional appearances abroad, particularly in countries where the show gained popularity, such as India and Malaysia. Cast members remembered these trips fondly as opportunities for bonding, cultural exchange, and experiencing fan adoration firsthand. The failed searches of the show. During the pre-production in 1977, producers faced difficulty finding the right actors for specific roles. Some characters, particularly those representing different nationalities, required actors who could speak English with a convincing accent while delivering comedic timing. Several auditions failed to meet expectations, leading to multiple recasts before the final ensemble was confirmed. After the original series ended in 1979, there were several failed attempts to revive or extend the show. Producers and networks sought to introduce new classroom characters and modernize the humor for late 1980s audiences. Many of these efforts failed due to a lack of available original cast members, creative disagreements, or fears of outdated stereotypes. Producers explored selling formats to foreign broadcasters with the intention of creating local versions of the show. Several proposals, particularly in the US and continental Europe, never materialized. These failed searches highlight both the universal appeal of the premise and the difficulty of replicating the original's charm. Some original cast members hoped to leverage their success on the show into other roles. Unfortunately for many, these searches for further career opportunities were largely unsuccessful because Barry Evans struggled to secure steady acting work after his early fame. Dino Shafik was typecast in stereotypical roles and could not fully expand his career. These failed searches represent the harsh realities of typecasting and limited opportunities in the 1970s and 1980s British television. Over the years, fans and media attempted to organize reunions, interviews, or documentaries featuring the original cast. Many contract searches were unsuccessful due to the deaths of cast members or their private lives, such as Dino Shafik in 1984 and Barry Evans in 1997. The stunned audience of the show. When Mind Your Language premiered in 1977, audiences were surprised by its multicultural cast and classroom setup. British sitcoms at the time rarely focused on ethnic diversity and linguistic humor, so the very premise was fresh and unusual. The mix of accents, cultural misunderstandings, and rapid-fire comedic timing, which felt unlike anything else on TV, stunned viewers. Certain characters exceeded expectations and shocked producers with their audience impact. Later in the show's history, viewers were stunned by real-life tragedies affecting cast members, such as the 1984 death of Dino Shafik, who'd been associated with joyful performances. Such off-screen events created a contrast between the comedic classroom and the harsh realities faced by the actors. For many international viewers, the humor and cultural misunderstandings were even more surprising and entertaining, and repeated broadcasts fueled growing fan enthusiasm. When the show returned briefly in 1986, fans were stunned to see partial cast reunions after several years. Changes in the cast and the addition of new students surprised audiences, reinforcing the unpredictability of the series' production and appeal. The show consistently surprised viewers with unconventional humor, unexpected character popularity, and real-life events affecting the cast. Even decades later, reruns evoke laughter and nostalgia while also reminding audiences of the juxtaposition between comedy and the real-life challenges faced by the actors. Why did the show fail? The show premiered and quickly became a hit due to its multicultural classrooms, character-driven humor, and fast-paced comedic timing. Its success was largely due to novelty, relatable misunderstandings, and the charm of the ensemble cast. During the first 2 seasons, ratings were strong, and audiences appreciated the warmth behind the humor. Cultural stereotypes and exaggerated accents, widely accepted at the time, formed much of the humor. By the early 1980s, social awareness and sensitivities were beginning to change, particularly regarding racial and ethnic representation. Some media outlets and advertisers declined to support the show due to critics' perception that it could be offensive or outdated. Key actors such as Dino Shafiq and Tommy Godfrey were unavailable for later seasons due to other commitments, or in Shafiq's case, his death in 1984. These departures weakened the ensemble chemistry, which had been central to the show's appeal. The show's attempts to introduce new characters or recast roles did not receive a positive reception, resulting in a loss of narrative cohesion. As the series progressed, critics and audiences noted repetitive plots and predictable jokes. The reliance on language misunderstandings became formulaic, reducing the freshness and spontaneity that had made the show initially engaging. This decline in writing quality eroded the original charm. In 1986, the show returned for a brief revival. Many original cast members were unable or unwilling to participate, and new characters failed to capture audience attachment. Viewers noticed the gap in chemistry and continuity, leading to poor ratings and an early end to the revival season. The life of Stuart Allen. Stuart Allen was born on the 3rd of May, 1931, in the City of London. He worked in the television industry for several decades, during which time he held both producer and director roles. In 2019, on the 19th day of January, he passed away. In addition to serving as director and producer of the television series Mind Your Language, Stuart also held these same positions on a number of other television shows. Among other things, he's perhaps most well-known for his work on the Buses and Young at Heart. When one takes into consideration the period of time that began in the middle of the 1960s, and perhaps even earlier, and concluded in the year 2009, one can come to an approximate estimation of the length of time that he spent working as a director and producer. Stuart Allen, the director, oversaw the creation of each and every episode for the television series Mind Your Language. In addition, he was the one in charge of creating the show for the first 3 seasons, referred to as Series 1 through 3. He was able to play a significant role in the overall quality of the performance's execution and production, as well as in determining its tone by concurrently carrying out both responsibilities, that is, producing and directing. Unfolding the real story of the show. Mind Your Language centers on an adult education class in London, where a group of foreign students from various nationalities learn English under the teacher Mr. Jeremy Brown, played by Barry Evans. The students came from many countries with different cultural backgrounds, languages, and religions. This multilingual, multi-ethnic classroom was central to the show's identity. Much of the humor came from language misunderstandings, literal translations, accent-driven jokes, and cultural misunderstandings, such as these students struggled to learn English, which provided recurring comedic situations. Vince Powell created the show. For the first 3 series, it was produced by Stuart Allen under the production company London Weekend Television, or LWT. The show quickly became popular, attracting very high viewership, around 18 million at its peak in the UK. For many immigrants or non-native English speakers, the premise resonated with the humor about learning a new language and integrating into a different culture. It felt real, if exaggerated, giving a sense of recognition. Rather than focusing on a single lead, the show's strength lay in the ensemble. Each student had distinct quirks tied to their nationality and personality, and their interactions created recurring comedic dynamics. Characters often embodied exaggerated cliches, accent jokes, cultural cliches, and stereotypical behavior that were played for laughs. While accepted at the time, these aspects would later draw criticism as insensitive or offensive. Over time, societal attitudes toward race, ethnicity, and representation evolved. What once seemed harmless comedy began to be seen by many as outdated or problematic. The shift made the show increasingly controversial. 14 Tragic Deaths from Mind Your Language, 1977. Among the cast members of the iconic British sitcom Mind Your Language, some have died. In 1984, Dino Shafiq died at the age of 53 from a heart attack, and Tommy Godfrey passed away at the age of 68. The deaths of both Jamila Massey and Albert Moses have been confirmed. There's a lack of publicly available evidence that provides a thorough account of their passing. In 1986, Robert Lee left at the age of 73 following a period of illness. In 1985, Gabor Vernon passed away at the age of 60, and Ira Sadler passed away in 1991 from natural causes at the age of 82. One of these people was Barry Evans, who passed away in 1997 at the age of 53 and apparently took his own life. In 2003, Harry Littlewood died at the age of 82. Ricardo Montez passed away in 2010 at the age of 87 due to cancer. Still, Zara Nutley passed away in 2016 at the age of 92 from conditions that were related to her age, and Francois Pascal, Anna Bergman, and Pixen Lim are also among the deceased, with less precise public documents about the nature of their deaths. This is a list of the actors who were a part of the production of the show. This list is a tribute to their memory, since their contributions helped to make the show unforgettable and widely adored. Thanks for watching Past Paradise, where Hollywood legends come home. If you enjoyed today's look into 14 tragic deaths from Mind Your Language, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Got a star or story you want next? Drop it in the comments. Till then, keep the nostalgia alive. Only on Past Paradise. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon